Hi, I am Kenya and welcome to my YouTube channel. So on today, I want to talk about my thoughts about people who utilize programs like Section 8 and the stigmatization of people who use programs like Section 8 and the stigma that poor people in general get. So I posted a video on TikTok over a year ago and it got over 2 million views. And I remember posting that video and then going about my business and grabbing my phone the next day and having 99 plus comments. So many people were telling me off. It got bad. Like, I don't think I'm cut out for the viral life, so I did have to cut the comments off. So here is the video in question. So this is a thing. So when I used to work at Section 8, right, this one girl calls me and she's like, hey, I just got a job offer for $75K a year. I'm not sure if I should take it because then I might lose my Section 8. I'm like, well, you make a $75K a year, you don't qualify for Section 8 anymore. And she's like, like she was really thinking about it. And I'm like, girl, like, take the job. Maybe in 2 more years, you'll be making $85,000 a year. Then in 5 years, you'll be making $100,000 a year. Like, the whole goal is to get the help when you need it and to elevate. Like, why y'all want to stay on Section 8 to collect those raggedy vouchers? They're not even worth that much. And the types of apartments that you're going to be able to get is not even going to be as nice as a place that you can get if you was making $75K a year. That is all. So it's been over a year since I posted that video, which was basically a conversation between myself and a person that was on the program. And now that I watched that video today, I have definitely have evolved. My thoughts on people who use programs like Section 8 or any other social service program has changed. I feel like I was being very judgmental in that video. I was being very uppity, and that is something that I don't want to come across as. And I don't want to seem like I am punching down on poor people, because obviously I'm not rich, and who knows, the tables can turn really quick. And so I just don't want to be that person. I know that a lot of what is said about people who are poor or use government programs are not true.
So I think Section 8 creates laziness. That's my thought. When I first got started, I was like, there's no way I'm gonna ever do Section 8 because you're putting people in, they don't want to take responsibility. They're like, okay, Section 8 is created for, there's some good because it does help people out that are in need, but it gets abused a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
And so like there's people in there that are just milking it out, and they're not taking care of they don't care about your property. They don't care about the environment they're in. They don't care about, like, they don't take ownership of anything. They don't take ownership of the outside of their property. They don't take ownership of the inside. They're just lazy.
So I do work in affordable housing. You guys know this. I don't work directly with clients. I work more so on the corporate side of things. However, I do see people's files. I see how much people are making, like, and I know that people are in a struggle. They really, really need these programs. And I feel like it is dangerous to put out negative stereotypes that people on these programs are lazy or poor people are lazy. That's not true. And we know that there are certain barriers that are set up to keep certain people where they are in life. You know, you have bigger employers like Walmart who will hire people for part-time positions so that they don't have to pay them health benefits and things of that nature. They will hire them as a part-time employee, keep them as a part-time employee the whole time that employee is working 40 hours or more a week. And so one root canal could really cripple someone financially. And I know this for a fact because I've recently been getting a lot of dental work done, and it's not cheap. You need money to upkeep certain things about yourself. I know these things, yet I'll look at somebody else and, you know, judge them, which is crazy. Like, we look at people, why are you in this situation? Why are you where you are? There's just so many things that goes into why people are in a situation that they're in. It's not fair that we judge those people, you know? The tendency of society to punch down on poor people, stigmatizing or marginalizing those who are economically disadvantaged, can be understood through a mix of historical, social, psychological, and systemic factors. Here are key reasons this dynamic persists. Number one, social hierarchy and stigma. Poverty is often associated with personal failings rather than systemic inequities. Many believe that poor people lack effort, discipline, or intelligence, despite evidence showing poverty is often a result of structural barriers like lack of access to education, housing, and healthcare. A psychological tendency to rationalize inequity leads to blaming the victim. This bias helps people feel secure, believing poverty could be avoided by making better choices. Number two, economic inequality. Those with wealth and influence often shape narratives to maintain their position. This includes framing poverty as an individual problem to avoid addressing systemic issues like unfair labor practices or inequitable taxation. Politicians and media sometimes blame poor communities for broader societal problems, diverting attention from structural failures. Number three, historical roots. Historical divisions between classes, particularly in capitalistic societies, have long reinforced the idea that being poor is shameful. These attitudes date back to colonial times, where wealth was equated with moral superiority. Number four, cultural narratives. The American dream myth. In the United States, the cultural emphasis on upward mobility creates a belief that anyone can succeed with hard work. This overlooks systemic barriers and labels those who struggle as lazy or unworthy. Popular culture often depicts poor people in unflattering ways, reinforcing negative stereotypes. Number five, psychological mechanisms. People tend to associate with those similar to them and view outsiders, such as the economically disadvantaged, with suspicion or contempt. Some individuals or groups feel better about their own position by looking down on those in worse circumstances. Number six, systemic issues. Policies often favor the wealthy, from tax cuts for the rich to underfunding social services. This institutional bias creates cycles of poverty that perpetuate societal attitudes. Laws and practices such as penalizing homelessness or targeting low-income neighborhoods with policing further marginalize the poor. So what can be done? To counteract these tendencies, efforts must focus on challenging stereotypes and teaching people about systemic inequalities can shift perceptions, promoting accurate and empathetic portrayals of poverty, addressing income inequality, and providing robust social safety nets. Dynamic reflects broader societal issues, not the inherent worth of individuals in poverty. Addressing it requires a mix of cultural, structural, and personal interventions. And I remember when I used to rent apartments under my broker, and this man came to me. He had pay stubs for 3 jobs and still couldn't afford just a regular apartment. He wasn't trying to be fancy or live it up, just a regular apartment he couldn't afford. And that's what mostly interested me into getting into affordable housing once I got into real estate. Before I got into the fields of real estate, I had no idea that people are struggling, you know. And when we hear of someone making $60,000, $70,000, that's before taxes. And then when I would see people that would come to me trying to get an apartment, the cheapest apartment I would have would be like $1,000 for like a little studio. And people literally would not be approved for it because they didn't make 3 times the rent. In life, there's ebbs and flows. There's times where you're going to be up, there's times where you're going to be down, and sometimes people just are at that point where they're down and they're trying, but they just can't quite get ahead. And even being a black person trying to rent apartments and renting apartments, and landlords asking me, well, what kind of black person are they? So it's not enough that they pass all the requirements, but now you're still trying to discriminate against them somehow. Like, it's crazy. And so yeah, so I just feel like, yeah, I've changed. And then there's this idea that there should be a cap on programs like Section 8, 5 years max.
Okay, unpopular opinion, as if I really care, but nobody's talking about it, so let's get into it. I feel like Section 8 should be more so used as a tool than how it's been used all these years. And hear me out. Because due to the waiting list being also extremely long for no given reason, it's more so because it's filled with people who's been on Section 8 since I've been born, or even before me. They're still on it. And that's a no. Because I feel like Section 8 should be more so accommodated to those who are fresh out of high school, still in college, and just got out of college, as well as the elderly, the disabled, the retired, etc. They shouldn't have a limit. However, I feel like the people who are just out of high school, in college as well as just now graduating college, I feel like we should be on a time limit, like 5 years max or something like that. Because these people that's on Section 8 for all these years, no max, no nothing, just being able to, they should have a ending period just like food stamps or something like that, or something like, because this is just ridiculous. It should be used as a tool to help the youth, because if we had that leverage to be able to live comfortably as well as being able to save our money for our future, for our, to buy our first home and things like that, then I feel like it would be much better for everybody, for the society, for the community, etc. And again, the elderly, they need to be able to live comfortably as well. Insurance, whatever, they still need to not have a limit, because they've done all they needed to do. They're retired, etc. They need to be able to live comfortable. But literally, I'm 23 now. Ever since I've been living on my own since 18, I've been paying full price in rent. And you're right, I am trying to get on Section 8 because it's becoming too much sometimes. Like when you don't come from money, you're not a trust fund baby, index fund baby, etc. It's kind of harder in life to, number one, be a single parent in this society, paying for childcare, don't qualify for caps, don't get food stamps, no government assistance at all. It's extremely hard. But that's something that I think we all need to talk about more and speak up more about, because honestly, this is ridiculous. There's no way it should be a waiting list for a year or 2 years plus for Section 8. That is insane. The people who've been on there for years need to get off. It's becoming like something that's hindering people and making them complacent.
How? It should be a stepping stone until you get on your feet. But what is getting on your feet? How much money do you have to make to be considered on your feet? Because technically, if you live in a major city like New York City and you make $60,000, that's still really not going to be enough. A few months back, New York City opened up their Section 8 waiting list, and I believe for one person, a single person, the minimum salary that you could make to qualify for Section 8 was $51,000 and like $456. Now, in most parts of the country, that would be good. That is good money for someone to survive, but not in New York City. To think that as a single person making $50,000, you still qualify to be on Section 8. And so that brings up a bigger question. How much do you actually have to make to be considered on your feet? The amount of income needed to feel financially stable in the United States varies depending on location, lifestyle, and personal circumstances. However, several studies give a broad sense of what's required for comfort and security. In major cities like New York or San Francisco, a comfortable living wage often requires upwards of $100,000 per year due to high housing costs. In contrast, smaller cities and rural areas might require less, with around $50,000 to $60,000 per year being sufficient for stability. A recent survey found that Americans generally feel financially secure with an annual income of around $75,000. This figure aligns with the median household income, but can differ significantly based on region and family size. To live comfortably in many parts of the United States, including covering essentials, discretionary spending, and savings, individuals typically need to earn 50 to 60% more than the basic living wage, which translates to approximately about $85,000 to $100,000 annually in expensive metro areas. Achieving stability also depends on managing expenses, debt, and access to benefits like healthcare. So if you've been on a program for, let's say, 5 years and you're making $40,000 or $50,000 and now you're cut off, now what do you do? You look at the rates for housing and you can't afford anything. So what do you do? Imagine if you were a single mom and you have kids to take care of. A lot of your income when you are a mom goes to your children. We have to think about stuff like that. I just think that people have in their minds that people on these programs are lazy, when it's really not. It's just that people just can't get ahead. And that's just that. And then there's another question. Why have kids if you can't afford to have kids? I think that a lot of people underestimate how much it costs to actually raise a child. And when I became an adult and I had my own son, and I would think about all the things and all the ways that my father invested in me. He poured money into me. How I was in so many different programs and I had private tutors, and I was going on like all of these trips around the country with my drill team, when my dad had to buy my plane ticket. My mom would get me clothing a lot of the times for the trip, and my dad would give me like $100 or $200 for spending money. Like, fortunately for my dad, he was able to provide, and my mom, she was able to, you know, provide what she could as well. I just feel like the spotlight is always on poor people and how they are a cancer to our society. But rich people make so much money off of poor people and being unethical and unscrupulous, but we overlook that. Most billionaires, if not all billionaires, are billionaires, and they are rich, and it's not because they got rich in an ethical way. When you think about like people who own diamond mines, they're wealthy, they're billionaires, but yet you look at how they have people mining in places like Congo. They're chopping off your hands if they feel like you stole, and all types of stuff. That's not an ethical way to become a billionaire. Then in the Congo, they're mining minerals that we use for chips in our computers and our iPhones and our iPads. And so we're paying what? This was probably $1,100 in 2017. And the person who mined it probably got paid $2 a day for the work that they did. But then they mark it up and charge us $1,100 for something, you know? And so we overlook billionaires. I feel like it's by design that they divert the attention to poor people, so we don't start looking into them, because as a society and, you know, people around the world started to really look into these wealthy people, these billionaires, guess what? It may just cause a revolt. And we see that just this week, the CEO of United was murdered, and people on the internet is like, but this billionaire was making $23 billion per year on healthcare. But healthcare is such a big issue in our society. People are dying because of lack of healthcare. But the CEO is making billions, while people who really need it and need the treatment and need the care are dying and are suffering. Just the public reactions to his death shows us that we're over capitalists. We are over the capitalists as a society. And I think that if we could shift the focus more toward these billionaires and these capitalists, I think, you know, that's what we should be doing. And like I said in a few other videos, I am a socialist. So I do believe everybody should have access to free healthcare and all of the things, you know. People should be able to eat, people should have somewhere to live. I feel like being on TikTok and being able to hear other people's point of views on the topic helped me change my point of view and helped me to think differently about things and to understand things better, if you get what I'm saying. In conclusion, I feel like the whole purpose of this video is to help anyone that had thoughts like I had, that the problem is not poor people, it's the capitalists. It's not the poor people, it's the capitalists. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about this topic in the comment section. But let's all remember to be respectful. And if you made it to the end of this video, I would like to thank you guys for coming to kick it with me today. And I will see you guys in my next YouTube video. Toodles.